calling you a bitch-ass nigga for 25 years. Fucking coward.
Hell no.
Because I also heard you say you don't want to wreck it with them.
I don't.
You don't want to be in the... I'm going to be honest.
I don't want it.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
I know them niggas. Don't talk to me about them niggas.
Y'all watch
I know them niggas.
You watch The Godfather,
I know
right?
who them niggas is, man.
Okay?
The Cash Money story isn't just about music. It's about building an empire out of pure talent, ambition, and non-stop drama. This is part 2 of a 3-part deep dive, and we're going even deeper this time. Who really created that signature Cash Money sound? Who stood behind the hits, the fame, and all the chaos that went down behind closed doors? From Mannie Fresh to Gillie Da Kid and even Pusha T, this chapter exposes the real tension that fueled one of hip-hop's most powerful legacies. Get ready because this ride's about to get explosive. Now let's switch gears for a second, because if we're talking about who really built that Cash Money sound, you have to give Mannie Fresh his flowers. This man wasn't just any producer, he was the backbone of the label. Every major hit that put Cash Money on the map had Mannie Fresh's fingerprints all over it. We're talking classics like Back That Ass Up, Still Fly, Go DJ, and Bling Bling, all produced by him. His sound defined a whole generation of hip-hop. Mannie joined Cash Money around 1993, and his production style changed the game.
It brought me to tears because it was that moment that I felt like it was something lifted off of me.
Heavy bass, sharp synths, and that signature New Orleans bounce. He turned local street flavor into a national movement. But Mannie wasn't just behind the boards. He was also one half of the Big Timers duo alongside Birdman, dropping the platinum-selling album Hood Rich in 2002.
What's one thing that I don't know about you?
I like DJing more than producing.
Their chemistry was undeniable, and for a while, it looked like nothing could break that partnership. Mannie has always given Cash Money credit for showing artists how to move independently and stack their own money, saying the label taught a generation about financial freedom in hip-hop. But things eventually started to fall apart behind the scenes. By 2005, Mannie Fresh decided it was time to walk away.
When I left Cash Money, I didn't know what I was going to do, how it was going to play out or whatever. I didn't have no connections. I buried myself in the drum machine.
He left Cash Money, pointing to money problems and a growing need for creative freedom. He wanted to branch out, experimenting with sounds beyond rap, diving into rock and even gospel production. But more than anything, Mannie said he just wasn't being paid fairly for the very beats that built the Cash Money empire. He once revealed that he'd clear around $50,000 per beat, but when he looked around at the label's lavish lifestyle, the cars, the mansions, the diamond chains, the math just didn't add up. For a man who crafted the entire sonic identity of Cash Money, the lack of recognition and fair pay hit hard, and it was only a matter of time before he decided to take back control of his art and his worth. Mannie Fresh has always kept it real about what he calls homeboy business. He warned that when you let friends and family handle serious business roles without real expertise, things can spiral fast.
That was Mannie Fresh, right? Yeah, we started the timers, and I would say the Big Timers is like a dope boy.
Your friend cannot be your manager. He can't be your lawyer, Mannie once said. Because if you're with a company that don't want you to have those things, maybe you shouldn't be with that company. That line hit hard, because he was talking straight from experience. When Mannie walked away from Cash Money, Birdman didn't take it lightly. In a 2006 interview, Birdman reportedly criticized Mannie's loyalty, throwing shade at his decision to leave after all those years of building hits together. But Mannie wasn't about to stay quiet. He took legal action, suing Cash Money Records that same year, and eventually settling out of court for an undisclosed amount. He managed to retain ownership of some of his masters. But even by 2010, he was still chasing down unpaid royalties. Mannie later called the whole ordeal a learning lesson about what happens when you mix friendship and money without clear lines. After breaking free, Mannie didn't slow down one bit. He signed with Def Jam South and jumped right back into the game, producing Jeezy's 2005 hit And Then What, a moment he described as his turning point after what he called a dark period of uncertainty. It was proof that Mannie could thrive on his own terms, no label strings attached. Now let's talk about another name that brought a whole new layer of heat to the Cash Money story. Gillie Da Kid.
I took it, honey.
Are you referring to Birdman? I didn't say, I just said, we'll get back to the motherfucker.
This one right here gets spicy. Gillie has been claiming for years that he ghost wrote for Lil Wayne back in the early 2000s. According to Gillie, he helped sharpen Wayne's flow and even contributed to songs on The Carter and other Cash Money projects.
And the nigga grabbed him by his neck and said, nigga, come here.
And the nigga whoop whoop, and he ain't do nothing. I lost all respect for him, and then I stopped fucking with him.
Of course, both Birdman and Lil Wayne have denied those claims every single time, saying Wayne always wrote his own bars. But Gillie's story doesn't stop there. He was actually signed to Cash Money for a short stint in the early 2000s. He says he was promised a $200,000 signing bonus, but the deal turned sour quick, leaving him tangled in bad publishing contracts and what he called terrible business practices. In the end, Gillie walked away from Cash Money in 2003, frustrated and fed up like so many others before him. But his claims about ghostwriting for one of rap's biggest legends? Those whispers still linger, and they've kept Gillie's name in the conversation every time people talk about Cash Money's most controversial moments. Birdman has always stood firm on his side of the story when it comes to Gillie Da Kid. He's repeatedly said that Gillie never dropped a single record under Cash Money and never made the label a dime. In a 2023 interview, Birdman stated flat out, "I ain't never made a dollar off Gillie, and he for sure ain't never wrote one rhyme for Lil Wayne."
Shut up. You old news, nigga.
That statement reignited a fire that had been simmering for years. This beef wasn't some quick back and forth. It's been bubbling since the early 2000s. The tension spilled out through diss tracks and old street DVDs that spread like wildfire.
Me and Lil Wayne caught smoke because he just dissed me on a song called Problem Solver. We was cool. I didn't understand it.
Back in 2006, Lil Wayne dropped a track called Problem Solver off the Carter. 2, Like Father, Like Son mixtape, taking direct shots at Gillie. Gillie didn't take that lightly. He clapped back hard on Cheddar DVD Volume 6, firing off a string of accusations. He claimed he used to lend jewelry to Wayne for music videos, gave him advice on handling business, and called out what he described as fake behavior coming from the Cash Money camp. Things stayed quiet for a while, but in 2023, the feud caught fire again after Birdman popped up on Clubhouse with Whack 100 and took things to a whole new level. Birdman said he lost all respect for Gillie after allegedly witnessing Beanie Sigel slap him inside a Philadelphia store. According to Birdman, Gillie supposedly had a gun on him and a whole entourage, but didn't do anything in return. Birdman used that story to paint Gillie as someone who wasn't really like that. Gillie wasn't having it. He fired back instantly in a video, tearing into Birdman and questioning why it took him so long to speak up. "Why Birdman wait so long to say something?" Gillie said. "Man, it took you 25 years to get some heart." Then he took it a step further, boasting about his current success, saying, "I'm bigger than Baby. I generate more money than that right now." Gillie didn't stop there. He called Birdman a coward and shut down the Beanie Sigel story, saying it was completely made up. But here's the interesting part. After decades of silence, both men were now speaking louder than ever, showing that even after all these years, the Cash Money legacy is still tangled in tension, ego, and unfinished business. Even with all the back and forth, Gillie Da Kid eventually admitted that he still respects Birdman's hustle. Despite all the years of tension, shade, and diss tracks, Gillie's been real about one thing. Birdman's grind is unmatched. Now at 48 years old, Gillie's been framing his mindset differently. He's all about family and legacy, saying he's too grown to keep feeding into old drama. He's made it clear that whatever issues still linger are rooted in past slights, not current beef. So even someone who's had some of the biggest clashes with Birdman can't deny it. The man's business acumen and relentless drive are undeniable. That's just real talk. But now, let's get into a beef that's been brewing for over 2 decades, one that's way deeper than most people realize. We're talking about Pusha T versus Birdman and the entire Cash Money camp. This one's got layers on top of layers. It all traces back to 2002, when Birdman allegedly didn't properly pay the Neptunes for their production work on What Happened to That Boy, the track that featured clips with Pusha T and his brother No Malice. That song was a hit, but behind the scenes, things got ugly fast. Reports said Pharrell Williams, half of the Neptunes, felt financially slighted by Cash Money, and after that, he refused to ever work with them again. Since Pusha T was tight with Pharrell as part of the Star Trek family, he took that personally, real personally.
Get to know me, brother.
All right, how you doing?
You're a good brother, man.
All right.
That money dispute became the foundation of a 20-year grudge, one that never really cooled off. Then a few years later, things escalated even more. Around 2006, Lil Wayne started rocking Bape clothing, a brand that Clips and Pharrell had made iconic through their friendship with Nigo, the brand's founder. To Pusha T, that wasn't just fashion. It felt like Wayne was copying their whole wave, adding a new layer of tension to an already bitter rivalry. The stage was set for one of hip-hop's longest-running feuds. When Lil Wayne hit the cover of Vibe magazine rocking full Bape gear, it rubbed Clips the wrong way. Not long after, they dropped Mr. Me Too featuring Pharrell, and the lyrics made people stop and pay attention. Lines like, "Wanna know the time? Better clock us." You know, people biting the style, from the shoes to the watches, were widely seen as direct shots at Wayne, accusing him of swagger-jacking their whole look. Wayne wasn't about to let that slide. In a December 2006 interview with Complex, he fired right back, hard. He downplayed Clips' entire influence, saying, "I don't see no Clips. They had to do a song with us to get hot." And he didn't stop there. He even mocked Pharrell, saying, "Who they is, Pharrell? Do you really respect him? That dude wore Bapes and y'all thought he was weird." That energy turned the tension into an all-out Cold War in hip-hop. Things stayed quiet for a while, but not for long. By 2012, Pusha T reignited the fire with one of his most infamous diss tracks ever, Exodus 23:1. The record didn't just take shots. It broke down the Cash Money business structure bar for bar. Pusha rapped, "Contract all messed up. I guess that means you all messed up. You signed to one that signed to another, that signed to 3. Now that's bad luck." Fans instantly connected those lyrics to Drake, calling out his multi-layered deal under Young Money, Cash Money, and Universal, all overseen by Birdman. It wasn't just a diss. It was a bold move that exposed how tangled those business relationships were. Lil Wayne wasted no time responding. He jumped on Twitter posting, "Fa, Pusha T, and anybody that love him." Then he dropped the diss track Ghoulish, coming straight for Pusha. But Pusha wasn't impressed. He laughed it off during an interview on Hot 97, calling Wayne's song horrible and trash. Even after all those years, Pusha T still wasn't done. As recently as July 2025, he was still throwing jabs. On his track Damage Control with Whale, he slipped in another slick line, rapping, "The realest Birdman, I just cock-a-doodle-doo. Doorstep, doorstep, I get it right through. Money talk, the wrist is light blue, Sugar Hill." That bar reminded everyone that the tension between Pusha T and Birdman's camp still burns strong. 2 decades deep and neither side's letting go. Sweet is the feeling. Type 2 bruised egos, man, you might sue that. That bar hit heavy. It was a slick jab from Pusha T, hinting at Drake's lawsuit against Universal Music Group, keeping the tension alive. That's over 2 decades of non-stop smoke aimed at Cash Money records. And Pusha, he still isn't letting up. In an interview with GQ, he even said lawsuits like that cheapen rap battles, making it clear he's sticking to pure bars, not paperwork. What a wild ride through the world of Cash Money, from Mannie Fresh's game-changing beats to the fiery drama stirred up by Gillie Da Kid and Pusha T. Decades later, the fire still burns, proving that with Cash Money, nothing ever stays quiet for long. But hold up. This story isn't over yet. The third and final video is coming next, revealing even darker corners, deeper secrets, and the names that shook this legendary empire to its core. So if you're loving these deep dives, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment below and let me know. Who do you think had the biggest impact on Cash Money's legacy? And don't forget to share this video with your crew. Let's keep the conversation going.